Hi guys, my name is Pavel. I would like to share with you something what I'm working right now in a plasma technology, and that is to understand and comprehend a bit more winding of the fields in terms of the existence of that, interactions across our physical structure, or more this what we commonly know as a physical structure of the human body. These examples we achieved, I'm saying we because there is quite a few people out there which one are pretty much in the same thing. Some of them are much more advanced, which are playing with that's what we commonly know to achieve the UFO or lift on motion, however we understand it. I just want to present on this on this video, how we start recognizing the certain flow and the certain strangnesses. When we start playing with making nano ganses and all this, a lot of us spend a lot of time in the laboratories. And because of that time and presence among so many plasmatic reactors, we start, in a way, seeing that in our physicality, certain things are changing or new things are popping out here and there. And those things, when we pay attention to them, not focus on them, but pay attention to them, we can start play with, moving them across the physicality, pointing them in, out, outside our physicality as well, which gives us a much higher in a way, much higher comprehension of existence of our physicality, that is not only a physical flesh and bones, but there is much more dimensions in plasma state going through the whole transmission matter, which we commonly know as emotions, and then through the soul, which is again the repetition of those three again. But starting from very beginning, when we start playing with those, plasma gadgets, let's say, or plasma, toys for the physicality, like ganses and nano, we start recognizing the flow. And I think that recognition of that flow is quite crucial, because when we're gonna take a look on the human body, which, let's say I will draw in here, we start recognizing the flow which is created in a way by three reactors, which we commonly know as a heart and lungs. But we more about this, what is of the interaction of it, so the free plasma. And what I'm trying to explain on this video is not those three sorry, it's not those three, is that one in the middle. And we're gonna focus on that one on the middle, because that's the free plasma. Even those are plasmatic because they are in the Ganser state. But we're gonna focus on the free plasma, or on the highest strength dimension plasma, if I will put it that way. When we start understanding this process, we start recognizing, we start feeling, because we literally can feel it through our physicality, because those fields slowing down again to the position of the GANs and GANs of matter, they repositioning. This reactor repositioned the strengthness of the ganses and strengthness of the ganses of the matter. And then we start recognizing that by the emotions, by higher strength fields, we can actually develop a movement of it. Some of us at the very beginning, we start recognizing a certain reactors in these places, and I will go back to them in a second. But recognition of any of them, in a way, in my opinion, helps to build up the trustability towards ourselves, that we read something, that we play with something, and we can start move on with this. But please do not stick to this emotions, feelings, sensations for too long, because everything is a dynamic system. And moving deeper, certain things will start disappearing and the new things will start showing up themselves in a new strength of the comprehension and a new strength of the maintenance of the fields. So when we're gonna move on to that what Mr. Keshe was explaining to us, in the middle of our head is our soul. Through bringing the free plasma closer to the soul, and we can understand in many different ways, because this closeness can happen in my current comprehension by two factors. The first factor is the increasement of the tube flow or the current, plasma current flow, or by not physical but the plasmatical motion of this reactor closer to the soul, which creates a huge friction between those two. So this friction doesn't mean they repel each other. This friction means they create much more that what we can commonly know or name as a soul chemtrails. But we're gonna go back to it as well later on. So the more we give, the more we receive. So the more we give from a physical state of the free plasma, which is this box here, we can start seeing the feedback from a higher strength of the fields going back to us. But it's very hard to put me that by the words, but because this is not the closed flow, this flows goes out and this flows goes in. And actually that's what it happened in the bottom box is actually created by this flow in here on the top. So that means the more we're putting out, the more we are capable to tie it back to ourselves through the different needs, through the different occurring circumstances in dynamics of our inner plasma in a certain levels of our physicality, because that's important as well. Those things start showing us that when we start playing on this current, so I will put this as increasing the tube in a width of that tube. At the very beginning, we've been playing with a very tiny one, but then we extend those fields, and then again we extend those fields, creating maybe not a massive flow, because we're still looking for solutions to a lot of things, a lot of adjustments and correction has to be put in place. But this is way how we can start. This is way how we can start playing with this, and the beauty is that our physicality will start showing us in the dimensions of the layering of the plasma a certain reactors, which that means every time when we go deeper, we're getting confirmation of our own existence with the, let's say, correctness of comprehension towards ourselves. And this is not the theory. This is a clear, practical, laboratory, let's say, work. Because many times when we've been discussing a lot of things across, the friends, which one, we meet up and we discuss the plasma things, when we don't understand something, we're always saying, obviously laughing, just give me a sec, I have to go to my lab. And then we're going into our lab and we start playing with the certain things, getting a certain, sometimes assumption, and sometimes the facts which one are correct to us, saying, okay, that's pretty much okay, I think we can go this way. So in a way, we start playing with gaining the knowledge through the fields of the totality, and through that what Mr. Keshe is doing to us, like creating a certain flows on the certain dimensions of the plasma, which one we can apply to by our will, intention, correctness, however you want to put this. But going back to the very basic things, When we started recognizing those three reactors, we've been amazed, because, you know, that was something new, tangible, actually, on our physicality. It doesn't exist in a physical dimension, but it exists, and you're aware of it. You can literally touch it, not by the fingers, but you can touch it by the emotions. You can touch it by the sensations, and you know they are there. And you cannot deny it, because some of us, even having this so strongly, we all the time we try to deny this, because nobody told us that it's different. But because we create a group of people which one start supporting each other in many ways, we start conforming to ourselves, like in a mirror, that okay, that's possible to happen. Obviously, some of us went one way, some of us different way, but it's like we going and we going back. So we split and we going back to become the same thing. So it's again like a neutron divided on proton and electron, by in a certain period of division, those strangnesses match back together to the point of the origin. So going back to this, in recognition of those reactors, some of us are capable to move those reactors in a certain positions, and then they basically moved on a skull, and they taking their own positions in a way. And you know, this front reactor is quite funny, because it's reaching actually up to the end of the bone of the nose. The tongue is quite interesting situation as well, because when we take a look on the natural position of the tongue, we can recognize that in many cases our tongue is laying on a palate. And when we increase the flow from the bottom reactors, so we increase that up, yes, so maybe I will change the color just to make this a bit more coloristic in a way. When we create the flow from the bottom physical reactor, let's say, we start recognize that this flow goes in a way through the direction of the physicality, from this point, from that point, and in a way from outside as well. So the tongue is giving us a beautiful indication in a way of strengthening the fields. I'm not going to talk about the sensations because I don't want to suggest anything, but I can call this as an increasement of plasma current, which doesn't have anything to do with the electric current. And then, you know, we recognize that through those three, as we call that, supporting reactors, the red dots on the skull, we can get access to this. So it's again pretty much the same situation as we drawn in here with the physical position of the soul in a way. And there is the way where we see at the present time, I don't know how to call it, maybe two different versions of the spaceships, which means they are like two different range of the strength of the field spaceships. In a way, that's how we understand that at the present time. One is which can reach, let's say, the certain fields of this planet, allowing us traveling across this planet. Another one is which will help us to reach another dimension, which this is right now, that one is an assumption, a solar system or the universe. And in more we're gonna go deeper in comprehension of building of star formations, the higher strengthnesses of the interaction with the total movement of the plasma we're gonna be able to achieve. In this way, going back to the very, I think, very physical, very first one, spaceship, which one we can create through our physicality, is cooperating on the chest area and together with the brain area. So in other cases, bringing our in a way, heart closer to the brain. Where in the physical dimension, this plasma can sound a bit more stronger, but actually in the plasma fields is actually other way around. So that one is stronger than this one. And obviously we know in plasma is only one law. The stronger always fits the weaker, but the weaker is actually accepting what is capable to accept, and the weaker creates the, how to say it, create the demand on the absorption and the releasement of the fields in totally being in an environment of it anyway. So pretty much the same situation happening with us. When we create that flow, and it's very physical to recognize it. It's not the imaginary thing. It's like someone will pinch you. You precisely feel when someone pinch you, how hard that pinch was, and phenomena occurring after that pinch. So this is pretty much the sensation. This is pretty much the same thing. We are capable to, in so many ways, understand it, that flow, and describe it, precisely the place of it, precisely the strength of it, and the longness of occurrence, in a way, if I can put it that way. So yeah, so this is not like, you know, just a talk. This is just sharing the experience, a very practical experience. And through playing this, we can reach another dimensions of, let's say, the reactors. Why I'm saying this? Because that's for the purpose. And I think, because that's what I see, but I don't know if that Mr. Keshe was talking about only thing, or there is much more, which one I don't see. Because, you know, we're still in a curve of learning, so I'm not saying that everything what I said is written in a stone. It shows the guidance, is a try to inspire someone to maybe go in a way of that, or maybe start from this and start developing something new and share that with the others, which brings us a more complex plasma field of our comprehension as a humanity. And in this way, we start recognizing another thing, which is actually content somewhere in this region. Maybe I will use a different color just to not mixing this up. In this region, and another one is in this region, and more or less, this is just I will put it as vicinities of areas of certain interactions. But then when we start understanding the increasement of the flow, those all start merging together, creating something like a head on your head, pretty much this shape. In a certain position of this strengthening, you will start, or I start, seeing that this top reactor, which one is the strongest one at the very beginning, it's becoming invisible, is disappearing, but you just feel the pressure of the field. And you know, the funny thing is, this bloke in here have a very, very huge how to call it, a role to play, because that's the captain in a way. But the funny thing is, when we start achieving this head sensation in a way, it start reminding us, or putting the similarity of this, when one was the head, the forehead, the second two, that's the templars in a way, that's somewhere behind the ears nearly, and that's the back of the head. And obviously in the middle of it we have the strongest one, which one we call the soul of the man, soul of the essence. In this case, we start developing the flow, and that happens to me actually twice, but once from those two was very, very, very strong. When I managed to put the flow from a bottom delta, which that increasement of the flow start, I didn't move up, but it will start pulling you up very strongly, like someone will put the hook into your spine, somewhere between the shoulder blades, and it was trying like to tip me over. And you know, that was so strong and so rapid that my brain cut it down, lowering the dimension of the funnel which the fields will go through to the position of, let's say, a fear, when the whole thing just basically gone. And in this game, or because of that game, we start recognizing that there is a few dimensions where the chest can represent the higher spectrum of, let's say, the 12, yeah, of that dimension. And because everyone divides on two, we know the division of the proton and we know the division of the neutron on proton and electron, so that plays pretty much the same game, but with the different capacity of the fields. But then the funny thing is, when we start sharing that among ourselves and we start developing that in a different way, we start seeing another quite interesting phenomenon, I think, where many of us will start getting the pretty much same thing, but on a higher level, I would say, higher level of plasma. What that means, we start seeing the same thing occurring on the head. So this 12 will start popping out, like, let's say, outside, this 6 inside. Not many of us achieve that, and we still achieving this, let's say, coincidentally, because many of us cannot reach the flow or maintain the flow. And that's what we looking forward to find out as a knowledge seeker. So maybe, you know, Mr. Keshaw at the time will give us the clue, and we're gonna reach that out of the totality to bring that and translate it to the humanity. Or maybe someone else will bring it because was watching that movie and his understanding is much richer than mine, and he will add to it. So this is how we are connected in so many ways. So moving forward, when we start playing with those, this whole thing is absolutely dynamic, is beating, have a heartbeat in a way, or I will call it even more, plasma beat, and it's spinning around. It's sometimes those things can appear as a sensation of not very pleasant things. But one thing which I would like to point in here, in my case, sometimes though this unpleasantment is showing me a new stuff which one I want to go through. So it's, in a way, the situation where, in so many ways, a little thing which one pops out as an unpleasant mess brings my attention to it. And because that brings my attention to it, I start looking for it, develop it, and play with it in a different ways and angles, which brings me from the unpleasantness in a very, very fast time to, oh my God, I don't want to get rid of it. It's so beautiful. I want to have it because this is my confirmation in a way. I know this is another attachment, but I think we're in a progress of teaching us ourselves how to disattach from the attachments, moving to the certain things which one can be attached or maybe not so much attached, because that's the different strength of the plasma. That's what I'm trying to say. But in so many ways, we can play with this, and the crucial thing is to create this flow, the flow of the physical points. But then there is another beautiful factor, which actually bring us to another I just pressed the wrong button. I didn't want to press that. What I wanted to say is, when we're gonna move on with certain things in comprehension of our reactors, we're gonna see another star formation. And this star formation is actually playing like this, in a way. Maybe I will use the colors to make that very colorful again. There is another star formation which we can start play with in a different ways, and I think, maybe not think, I start playing with this in my laboratory to getting the certain phenomenons in a flow of that plasma. When we're gonna, in a way, create the free plasma reactor out of the free plasma reactor. I know that sounds a bit weird at the very beginning, but that's what we're heading to. That's the highest strength dimension fields of the plasma. We're gonna understand that out of the free plasma reactors, we create another reactors which one are more free plasma in a way conditions. And in a way, if we use those three, when the bottom one, as Mr. Keshe beautifully explained that, the bottom one is a cutter, the one is a translator, the one is a source. Then we create another field which is unbelievably created by every single of us on a daily basis. And this is the things how we falling in love in a way, because when we're gonna take under consideration the example that one person is in Canada and second one, let's say, in Japan or on the other side of the world, and suddenly those two people are meeting up each other in France, falling in love and changing their lives completely, is not coincidental, is due to the interaction of those three, which create a magnet, a strength of the plasma, which is not actually only a ball, it's more like a coiling thing, it's more like a ray of plasmatic information, which behaves itself as a complex plasma and matching another plasma. So what that means, on this other part of the world, we've got the same situation. There is another person which one creates the same strength fields, and then they start matching together, bringing themselves closer. So this is a physicality, and this is a motion. The same thing goes and works with another factors where there is a repelling occurring. It's the same situation. If those strengths are not matching in a way as they should, they just avoid themselves. And that's the natural behavior of the plasma. So in many ways, I think we can call that a satellite. So now when we do the games with our reactors in our own laboratory, we can go back to create a vacuum plasmatic condition by the creation by those three, a satellite, which one can be on another planet. This is still a theoretical thing for me, because I'm playing that with more physical things to gain a bit trust to myself. But maybe some of you will have something beautiful to add it, or maybe achieve something what can actually change our whole perspective of approaching to that subject. But what I'm saying is, when we put that satellite out, which is free plasma much stronger than the physical appearance of it, so the weaker follows the stronger. Unless the weaker doesn't want it, because that's his in a way right as well, then in a way can separation occur. But this is a subject for the totally different part. What I'm trying to say, when I referred at the very beginning to the chemtrails, this strangeness is like a chemtrail of our soul, because every time when our heart beat, it in a way cuts a different satellites, different strangnesses of the fields, which one we leave behind. That's freely given, because we're doing this every time anyway. And then it's not only to the heartbeat as a heartbeat in essential physical terms of beating of that heart, is the plasma heartbeat, which is created by the flow of an interaction of exchange by all those three reactors which one create that satellite structure in a way. So as you see, this is another star formation. And you know, this is funny thing how we can become a creators. We are the creators anyway, but I wasn't never aware of it until I touched the Mr. Keshe teachings. And now, because of his teachings, I'm more logically aware. So for the lower, for the brain, for the lower strength of the fields, I'm more aware of my capability of the creation, because those three parts are start playing together, which is the soul, the emotion, and physicality. So in a way, this is beauty of the creation, when the creation conform itself by its creation. So I think it's time for us as humanity to move forward in a dimension of sharing that knowledge on the strength of the soul level, which we do anyway. But you know, when you have a receiver, let's say this is a mobile phone 900, and then you trying to send a message from let's say 2800 megahertz, so those things do not match. So obviously this cannot be sent to that, so this goes over the head the person in a way. So we have to well, we don't have to, but the matching the strengthnesses is very, very important in this case. And you know, there is another funny thing, because recently I was speaking to one of, I think, one of the beautiful scientists, plasma scientists, when we've been discussing, and then beautiful things come out of it, where, you know, a lot of people in different, well, not different, but, well, in a different scientific background, I would put that way, they're looking on the sun 1 hour, or in a period of 1 hour from the sunrise, and then they're looking into the sun 1 hour before the you know, sunset. You know, this is beautiful, because that's the way how we conform our, let's say, physical